I worked for many years at the largest bank in Brazil. About a decade ago, that bank had a new problem: legal labor expenses. It's very common in Brazil, legal labor expenses. There was a big volume of labor lawsuits, and a lot of money was spent on this. The bank adopted at the time the practice that everyone adopts and still adopt today. When you have a labor lawsuit, a specialized law firm is hired. The results, unfortunately, weren't what the bank expected, and they didn't take the law firm's performance kindly. So they decided to innovate, to create a law firm within the bank. Very innovative. Dozens of lawyers were hired, and a very large firm was established, as you can see, with 46 people. The objectives of this enterprise were very clear: obtain better results in judiciary and to structure a way of better acting in judicial process in order to migrate this knowledge to external offices so that the results of the internal experiment could gain scale. As you can see, the internal office was built around a classic Taylorist structure with hierarchy, command control, functional division, and silos, a classic Taylorist structure. Sadly, after a few years, this structure did not work, and the department was on the verge of being closed down. Bad results, no knowledge to be transferred to external law firms on how to better act in legal proceedings, as the result was even worse than theirs. The team was demoralized, executives were very suspicious of the work, and the closure of the department was imminent. I was called at that moment, at the peak of the troubles. For me, who had already been studying agility and had been a legal manager for some years, it was certain that Taylorism was showing very clear signs of fatigue. When analyzing the internal law firm, I believed that the problem was not the people, it was not the behavior of the bank, nor the judiciary, but the work structure that did not privilege the knowledge worker, lawyers are knowledge workers, and the fluidity of work. So I decided to implement an agile framework. We would work in Scrum. But for this to be possible, I have to solve some issues. It was not so simple. The first issue to be solved was the positioning of management. As the entire structure of the bank was based on Taylorism, with hierarchy, command control, functional division, and silos, many silos, I would first need to adjust the positioning of management and my own position. Agility preaches customer centricity. On the right side, customers in the center of everything. Agile teams, therefore, orbit customers as they autonomously seek to meet customers' needs. That's why we work to meet customers' needs. But what about managers who are traditionally served by teams? In what I called the new management paradigm, the managers begin to orbit the teams, as you can see in the charts, in order to serve them and to orbit the customers themselves so that there is real strategic alignment. Everybody working for the same people, the customer. All layers of management, therefore, orbit customers and managers serve the teams, no longer are served by them. I, therefore, and the other managers who worked for me started to position ourselves as leaders who serve the teams, in the sense of providing all the necessary conditions for the success of the team. So the first point was solved. The agile teams would act autonomously with the customers at the center of everything, and the managers would serve the teams. so that they could delight customers, and in fact, there would be agility. The second issue, Scrum, which was the framework I chose, prescribes two new responsibilities that we didn't have. We had lawyers, but we didn't have the responsibility of the product owner, who is the team's mini CEO and prioritize everything that needs to be done. So I named a PO. And Scrum prescribes the responsibility of Scrum Master, who is the Scrum Manager, responsible for ensuring the perfect application of Scrum in the team and is the leader who serves the team in order to achieve maximum performance. In that time, I was the Scrum Master, responsible to implement Scrum. Summarizing the issues and what we did in the beginning, new management paradigm established. I positioned myself together with the other managers as leaders who serve the teams so that the teams were always focused on obtaining the best result for the customers. Two new responsibilities established, teams assembled, we started working in Scrum. This is the Scrum framework. This is the most well-known structure of agility. I'll explain how it works quickly so you can see how simple it is. I will also bring the results achieved so that you can see how, despite being simple, it's powerful. In Scrum, everything starts with the assembly of a product backlog, which is nothing more than a list properly prioritized by the product owner. Remember, the new responsibility, product owner. He prioritized the product backlog. A list that contains all the work to be done known to date. Once you have a list that contains everything that the team needs to do already prioritized, the team is able to do its first sprint planning, an event dedicated to planning the week's work of a week's sprint. The team, therefore, with autonomy, meets and decides what will be done, who will do what, how the delivery will be made, and when the delivery will be made in that sprint. Once defined what will be done, who will do it, how and for when, the team has its sprint backlog, which is the sprint plan. After the sprint plan is finished, the team then starts the sprint execution. They go to work. They work on the plan. But because there is so much unpredictability in everyday life and all plans by nature are unstable and incomplete, every single day there is an event called the Daily Scrum, a 15-minute event where the entire team gets together to inspect the plan and its objectives to assess if something needs to be changed. I mean, if there is a need to adapt the plan so that the objectives are achieved by the end of the sprint. We work every day. Every single day we work based on the plan, but with inspection and adaptation through the daily Scrum until on the last day of the sprint, we carry out a sprint review. The team meets with stakeholders who wish to attend, and we analyze how our sprint was, how our work was performed. We inspect the deliveries and the work in itself. We gather feedback, we gather inputs on how to improve, what we can do differently, and after this event, we go to the last event. The team gets together, but now without anyone present, and thus a sprint retrospective. The team inspects itself. The Gatry lawyers give each other feedback. They analyze how they behaved, they analyze how they communicate, if they adhered to Scrum principles and values, identify what they could improve, and add this improvement in the next sprint. a practice that gives the team the possibility to improve continuously, week by week, always better. Once this is done, the cycle of a sprint is closed. It starts with planning, then moves to immediate execution of the plan with inspection and adaptation every day, and ends with a review of work and a team self-analysis. This is a sprint. It's a 1 week feedback loop. We repeated this 52 times a year working on Scrum. Every week we do a sprint. This is extremely powerful despite being simple. What have we achieved to demonstrate all this power? After only 6 months of Scrum implementation, our ability to absorb labor lawsuits increased by 425%. 400% in 6 months. The per capita productivity of lawyers, per capita productivity, not just the teams, increased by 175% when we analyze the volume of legal challenges produced. Our biggest challenge is produce responses in judicial power. So every single lawyer increased by 175% the capacity of working in the most challenging work. This is the graphic of Professor Clayton Christensen. I'm a great fan of his work. He was from Harvard. He died last year, I think. He's the creator of the concept of disruptive innovation. Sometimes you are looking for something that can transform your department, transform your company, transform your law firm, and you already have it. Knowledge, technology. It's not software, it's not hardware, it's people themselves working in another way. Agile management can be a disruptive technology, as you can see. Look, before Scrum, we had 8% of the market share, and we competed with mass offices whose competitive advantage is low price. That's the competitive advantage of our competitors in the beginning. Low price. They have low price. Our quality was similar to theirs. Let's say low quality and low price. But our cost in the beginning was 4 times higher than our competitors. It certainly wasn't the path to success, as you can see. With the implementation of Scrum and its constant inspection and adaptation, a lot of thoughts, a lot of learning, the quality has improved meaningfully and our productivity as well. After 6 months, instead of 8%, we started to absorb 25 to 30% of the market share with less lawyers because our per capita productivity increased greatly, as you can see, which allowed us, even, as I say, with 12 less lawyers than the original structure, to act in many more court cases. This has caused our costs to plummet and made us match the mass office in terms of price. Now, after 6 months, the price of our work was the same as our competitors who works with mass lawsuits. However, it was not just our productivity that increased. The quality of our work had greatly increased thanks to the planning, daily Scrum, review, retrospective, thinking about work, talking about work, feedback, the loop, the cycle of the sprint make our work greatly better. We achieved unprecedented results in legal proceedings. in terms of quality, we started to compete with legal boutiques, but at a mass price. So it's a new state. This caused a disruption in the market because we had mass market price and volume of mass market, but legal boutique quality. We have overcome the price or quality paradox. We had price and quality. There was no competitor that matched us in the market. Scrum, or what I call Agile Legal Management, was a disruptive innovation in the markets in which we operated. It caused a drastic change in the way we competed with other firms. I also brought the summary of the results. We have increased per capita productivity by 175%, engagement rose to 95%, cost of ownership dropped by 35%, the cost per lawsuit dropped by 75%, and I didn't bring the numbers here, but we became the firm with the best result in the market, much higher than any other. This could only result in high customer satisfaction. High customer satisfaction is what every agile team always looks for. So we achieve it. But the transformation and the results were so great that I had the opportunity to make a proposal to the bank executives. I conceived a new structure based on Scrum of Scrums, which would evolve the internal labor office into something much bigger and audacious. We had our agile teams taking care of 30% of the market share, but our internal suppliers, legal operations, still worked in a classic Taylorist structure with hierarchy, command and control, functional divisions, and silos, many silos. And that an enterprise that is not entirely agile meant that we wasted part of the gains obtained by agile teams, especially because there was communication failure, friction between areas, and a cultural shock. After all, agility creates a new culture at work. And this is very common in organizations. My proposal was to take lawyers from agile teams, take members of functional areas, and create autonomous teams capable of producing everything at once. We would have only one area which would be neither legal nor legal operations. It would be AdvOps. ADV in Portuguese is the abbreviation for lawyer, and OPS is the abbreviation for legal operations. So lawyers and legal operations together in one team. The goal of AdvOps was to absorb 100% of the inputs from labor lawsuits and give to all law firms the opportunity to have excellent results like the in-house office. Remember that original executive dream of scaling the good results finally began to take place. The project was approved, and during the pandemic, we set up 6 agile teams, 100% remote, working on Scrum of Scrums, which achieved a 900% increase in productivity. 900% increase in productivity. And a result much higher than that of the internal labor law office itself. And within a year, all the teams were working in agile teams at the start of a Scrum at scale. AdvOps was so successful that several areas sought me out to start their agile journey. In other words, from a small agile department of lawyers, we have evolved to the point of influencing the entire company. But the evolution continued. Thanks to the success of AdvOps, the internal labor office itself, the first project, lost its reason to exist. It was no longer necessary, as AdvOps absorbed 100% of the inputs and with even better results. So it was decided to end the in-house office and outsource the work to me. So today I have my law firm, the first to be born in Scrum, which takes care of those same processes, and I receive inputs from the AdvOps that I myself helped to build. The lesson is that an agile team, even if it's small, it's capable of transforming an entire company and creating lasting win-win relationships. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my story. Thank you very much.